Episode 7, Angus Sinclair, the World's End Murderer. I find it weird that he's referred to as that primarily. I know that's what he was convicted of, but the amount of other stuff that piece of shit got up to.
Yeah, what a turd.
Yeah, so Angus Sinclair, a Scottish person. Sorry, Keir. So...
Do they not like being called the Scotch?
Apparently they don't like being called Scotch. And a Scotch egg is not anything to do with it, so apparently.
But Scotch is Scottish whiskey.
Yeah, I know.
From the Scotch.
Anyway,
I'm Chris.
And I'm Christian.
And this is Echo On, a true crime podcast. Before we go any further, I just want to say a big old thank you and send out all of the love to our listeners so far. We're new to the game.
Mm-hmm.
We
hope we'll be here for a long time.
Yeah, here for the long haul.
Not for this episode, but
here for
generally.
A long time, not a good time. No, wait.
Yeah, well, I don't know.
I think that's everyone that listens. But yeah, no. So thank you to everyone that's downloaded, been listening, sent us some iTunes reviews, etc. So please carry on doing that. We love all of you for doing it. We really do.
Yeah, share it. Tell your friends.
We always if each one of you tells 5 people, we'll have 25 people.
Yeah, I know. No. And that'll be 25 listeners.
Yeah.
And that's more listeners. No. Yes.
No. But if each one of you could just tell 5 friends, that'd be fucking wonderful. And we could get a few more downloads, get those figures up. But
also a thank you to the other podcasts out there that have retweeted us, the parts of the community the podcast community is phenomenal.
Again, like I said, we're new to this. We came in with no expectations, nothing. And having people that we don't even know include us in their list of podcasts to listen to and retweet us and share us is great. And we did not expect it. We
think you're misguided and wrong because we're terrible. But, we're glad that we actually...
We like the fact that you appreciate our effort. I feel like we're at the end of, I don't know if you had it at the end of year awards at schools and stuff. You get best student, best... 100% attendance, and then you'd get the thing of
special
best effort.
Yeah, that's us.
We're
the best effort
podcast.
Well, it's because Chris and I both listen to many different podcasts, but we do listen to primarily a lot of true crime ones.
Yeah, and
to be recommended in the same breath of some of the people we've been listening to for over 100 podcasts of their stuff it's a big thing for us.
It's pretty astounding. So yeah, please keep sharing. We absolutely love it. We love all you guys. Also, just going to mention, we did a little standalone episode advertised on our pins.
Yes,
they've been really popular so far. So thank you. There's still some available.
We're about halfway through now. If you do want a free pin and only pay postage,
what's the website?
It's a horrormarketplace.etsy.com. Who've been lovingly partnered with us and have made us these badges, and they will send it to you for free.
What's the code?
Echo On.
One word.
Put it in the coupon section in Etsy. You get £7 off.
Which is the price of a pin?
We're astounded that even one went. So thank you for those people who have got pins. I hope you're wearing them with pride. So this takes us to Angus, piece of shit Sinclair.
Yes.
Although we'll do another segue now before we go on to Angus Sinclair.
Okay, cool.
We just talked about this a minute ago, Chris. Before we started, and we talked about this in the Belfield episode as well, we kind of not romanticized. It's probably
I honestly thought I didn't romanticize serial killers because you can't, because they're fucking horrible.
Yeah.
But I found them really interesting. But we were saying, it's researching it, our level of interest has changed. Has really changed a lot. We've gone from going we know they've done horrible things, but there's something kind of, I don't know, just something about them
that is so bad.
But
it makes me it's made me feel sick to a point that I've never felt while reading books about these people. But when you have to
actively engage with
it,
it's really. Yeah,
but it's we've done episodes of mass disappearances. We've got one coming up in a couple of episodes of Dera Sauda, the Indian sect leader who was done for murder, rape, all this stuff. But that was actually more interesting, and I enjoyed looking into it because of the multifaceted part of this.
Yeah.
When you're looking at serial killers like Belfield, like Sinclair, like any of those people, like Chikatilo, you're just looking at one person's sick, twisted mind to the point of having to deconstruct it instead of just going, oh, when they rape that person, okay, and then kind of dismissing it. You have to look at it in a more humane point, and it makes you feel fucking horrible.
If you want to feel horrible, Belfield and Chikatilo are in the archives, so give them a listen.
Please listen to them, and I will tip my hat to those podcasts that have gone on for dozens and dozens, sometimes hundreds of episodes, talking about this stuff at length. We do like between half an hour to an hour an episode, depending on how much we want to talk. And we walk away going, we need more drink.
Yeah. These guys that do 2, 3, 4 episodes, multi-part episodes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I doff my hat.
Like, especially the ones that do, I mean, we shy away from the storytelling. Mainly because other people do it and they do it better.
Yeah.
When you're looking at podcasts like Last Podcast on the Left, the Slaughter podcast, they go through the podcast and actually telling you the story of what they've done. And I was like, yeah, we can't do that because we're not going to be as good as them.
No.
So we decided to we will bullshit about that subject. And if you want to research it afterwards and learn more, please listen to those other podcasts and find out the fuller story. But this is just our thoughts on it. But how the fuck do they do that?
I don't know. It's hard work.
So yeah, Angus Sinclair. He's a serial killer who basically started in the 60s or the late 50s, 60s he was jailed in 61 for his first horrific thing. We'll tell you, he basically, in 1961, he was jailed for culpable homicide. I don't know. What does that mean to you?
I think isn't culpable homicide
You're responsible for it.
Isn't that the Scottish version of manslaughter?
Maybe, but
I think that's the Scottish version of manslaughter.
Okay, let's say it's manslaughter. He was jailed for manslaughter after sexually assaulting and strangling a 17-year-old girl to death.
A 7-year-old.
What did I say?
17.
Fucking hell, I meant 7. Jesus.
Yeah.
Oh, 7. I'm reading it on my screen and I still said 17. Maybe my brain is going, you can't handle this.
How old was he?
He was young. He was 6. I say young. I think he was 16.
16? That's what I was going to say. You might have said 17 because you were thinking he's 16.
Yeah. So he was not of an age where you can ever forgive it. Fuck, if he was 6 as well, or 6 or 7, still couldn't forgive it. If he was 1, you can't forgive it. There's certain things you do. But he was found guilty, sentenced to 10 years for killing a child.
He was.
And granted, he was a minor at the time, so there's obviously a restriction on what you can do, but he was released after 6.
Yeah. What I find actually really interesting about this, and it shows that he was, even though he was young, he was 16, which is old enough to know the difference between right and wrong, but also immature enough to maybe act kind of...
And also dealing with things like puberty and things like that.
Yeah, so in 1961, he was jailed for the culpable homicide, like we said before, which I think is the Scottish equivalent of manslaughter. He sexually assaulted and strangled a 7-year-old. It was in his house as well, or in his place where he lived in his... in
the close he was in, in the tenement building.
In the tenement building. So only like a few months or like previous to that, he was charged with lewd and libidinous behaviour. And he was.
What does that actually mean? Does that mean just like showing your dick to people? Or
that
something?
kind of thing. Yeah, it's a low-level sexual assault kind of crime, and he was still, which is nuts. Like he was still kind of on probation for the first offence when he knew that his mum was out of the flat for a few hours. So got this girl. He sent her to the shops.
Yeah, sent to get some chocolate.
And when he came back. He took her into the flat.
Well, apparently it was so hot outside. He had to try and talk her into the flat. So was saying, "Oh, come inside. You don't want your chocolate to melt." And being a 7-year-old girl, knew better, but was like, "Oh, I suppose."
Yeah, and she lived in that block, I think, as well. So it wasn't like a complete strange place for her.
This is the weird thing. When I was doing the research for it, I mean, I've got a book which is basically Sinclair, The World's End Murders Through the Eyes of a Killer by Ryan Green, which is more of a taking the evidence and making it more of a narrative. So it's taking some liberties with what's said and things.
Yeah, just so you know as well, so I got my information from The World's End Murders Final Verdicts by Tom Wood and David Johnston.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, I mean, that's going to be... probably a much... I'm not saying this isn't a factual book, but because it's narrative, you don't necessarily know which bits were made up. But
my guy was written by one of the he was one of the lead investigators in the thing later on. He was involved. Reliable. He was involved as a lower down kind of policeman in the original cases. Then was one that was like the lead of the whole world's end things later on.
But it really confused me because when I did my research online before the book arrived, then I read the book, and I thought that there were 2 girls that he raped and killed that were young from the flat, and one that he lured into a stairwell, raped and strangled her, and one that he lured into his house. I didn't realise that the BBC is incorrect, and basically says in the whole thing of Angus Sinclair says the teenage Sinclair lured his first victim into a stairwell before raping and strangling her, when in fact he lured her into the house where his mum was, well, not there, but where he lived with his mum, raped and strangled her there, then took her downstairs and then threw her down into the stairwell to make it look like she fell.
Maybe what they've done is conflated the 2 things, because within months he sexually kind of molested or whatever his first victim in the same place as then he raped and killed his first murder victim.
Shame on you, BBC. It's like, if you conflate the bits, not a problem. But when you're trying to do research,
it's confusing.
I want it to be real. But yeah, so
he threw it down the stairs so it looked like an accident. But then what he did, when everyone was around and they were like trying to see what happened, he turned up and he was very vocal about shouting like, we need to get help, we need to call the police, inserted himself straight into the middle of it and became this like really outspoken person. Yeah.
He didn't know any better, and he thought this is how you get rid of
that's
the
what
people.
I mean. Yeah.
But if he didn't do that, they probably would not have caught him.
Perhaps not, but I also think that even though it was like it proved to be wrong because he got found guilty of it, it also shows like a certain level of thinking, of devious thinking of like, I need to. If this was the first time he's killed and he's instantly tried to cover it up and then get involved in it.
But also he had to go back and get rid of the evidence in the house because his mother was due home.
Yeah.
So he was literally
had like
panicking.
4 or 5 hours.
But he was panicking, going, what do I do? I need to get rid of them. I'll go around and try and... Oh, he was the one that called the ambulance.
Yeah, he did. I forgot about that.
But the thing is, he already fucked up the story because when he called the ambulance, he called her Catherine on the thing by name.
Yep.
And he could have not known her. He could have pretended to not know her and been fine and never been caught. But he said, oh, Catherine's down there. Oh, this little girl is. And literally at the outset made him the prime suspect.
Yeah, he should have probably done one or 2 things. He should have either gone with the name straight away and owned it and been like, well, she lives in the same block as me, so I know it. Or been like, there's a girl, I don't know who it is. I've just seen her fall.
What he actually said was, Catherine fell down the stairs. There's a little girl that she fell down the stairs in the close. She isn't breathing.
Yeah.
It's like, fucking dude.
Yeah.
If you're gonna do that, at least fucking try.
Choose a story and stick to it at the very least.
What happened here was very telling of why he managed to get away with so much later on. Because from the outset, he learned from his mistakes.
Yeah, absolutely. He was devious. He had a certain level of kind of criminal kind of intelligence, I guess you could say.
He was all the things, but bear in mind, when he was a kid, he was obviously very short. I mean, he was only 5'2" when he was an adult, but he was a very small kid, very odd, and they think maybe there was some learning disability, some autism or something going on, because people mocked him all the time. He was never liked. No one liked him, and they always like persecuted him for everything. And so he was very ostracized from every friends group. And even at the time of 16, before he went into prison, he was not a person that anyone would call a friend. He was not a person that anyone would call trustworthy. He was like the weird kid in the place. But then he did this, got sent to jail, but then started in jail. You'd think he was absolutely petrified that he thought he was going to die in jail.
Because he was with adults, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was in the adult prison. He thought he was going to die. It was like his worst nightmare. Like when he was in the streets of Glasgow, he felt a prisoner anyway. But then in this cell, it's worse, and you know that he could get shanked at any moment. But then
shanked means stabbed.
Stabbed up good and proper. But the thing is that a load of Glaswegian criminals, because he was sentenced in Glasgow, a social circle within the prison accept him on the fringes of their little group, but only alongside the other sex criminals. And with those people, they became his mentors in prison. And in the prisons then, they knew how to pay lip service to the prison guards, to everyone, and to the boards that would actually do the bail, and they knew how to play the game, and they taught him how to play the game. But
and
also,
that's like you said before, like he learnt from day one,
and they taught him everything, like how to if you're involved in a interview with the police, how to conduct yourself, what to say, what not to say, how to do everything. If you're going to kill someone, how to do it, how not to do it. I mean, I'm not saying all these people he hung out with were murderers, but they were definitely
But they
influencing
were-
a small kid.
Well, they were, yeah, but they might not be murderers, but they were hardened criminals.
Yeah.
They knew how the system worked.
And while he was
They
in
knew-
prison,
However, part of
Yeah.
me thinks like, if I'm going to learn how to be a good criminal, I'm not going to take that lesson from someone in prison.
no, you're not.
I feel like they're not the best ones.
But they were telling him all these things that he was literally taking on board and
Yeah.
would later use.
yeah.
But also, he was taught a trade.
Mm-hmm.
He was taught how to be a painter and decorator. And towards the end, before he was released, he was given day release to do internships in actual
Yeah.
companies in Glasgow.
Did he as well? He did painting and decorating. He also made fishing nets,
Yeah.
which taught him how to tie various knots.
And also, and we were talking in the Belfield episode about how some people have jobs that they should not have
Yeah.
because there will be serial. He was an ice cream man as a part-time when he was a painter and decorator. And he went back to it quite a few times.
Who else was a ice cream man? Fred West.
Yes. Taking us back. But yeah, you've basically got people who you go, I mean, I'm not saying serving frozen desserts to children makes you a serial killer or a paedophile, but it doesn't help those who are.
No, but yeah, it's the case of where people like from Jimmy Savile to Michael Jackson
Yeah.
to, they insert themselves into situations and scenarios where they can be around the people that they want to victimize. So not everyone that's an ice cream man, not everyone that gives to children's charities, not everyone that's a teacher or a priest or a scout leader is a paedophile. But if you are a paedophile, you're going to try and get yourself into those situations so you can insert yourself into, I shouldn't have used that turn of phrase. You can be around those people that you want to victimize.
Well, apparently, he learned how to. One of the main things he picked up in prison was learning how to cover his tracks more than anything, more than just. But the one they also picked up on his court case that he was basically what he did, how he involved himself, and then when he was faced with it, how much he was just constantly denial, and very vocal and everything, and they taught him how to be quiet.
Okay.
And to act confident in the face of questioning, and how to charm this is the one thing, how to charm your victims instead of relying on brute force. Which again, when we'll get to it, very instrumental on what he relied on, because bear in mind, he was trying what I could do. Come in, your chocolate will melt. I mean, he went the Bundy way.
Hootsman.
He was like pretending he lost his dog and things like that.
Yeah.
Help me in my van, my leg's hurting type thing. It's the very like age-old adage of like getting someone to trust you.
Yeah. Come in for a wee rest.
Yes. A wee rest? Is that like peeing on them?
That's Scotch for little.
Oh, right. Well, I'm going to, after this episode, I'm going to go for a little in the toilet. But yeah, so exemplary behaviour. Apparently, the notes from the prison were he was an exemplary prisoner and was learning really well at his trade and was released.
Hence, only did 60% of his.
Yeah, which, to be fair, this isn't dissing the criminal system here. He was given that long, they believed, because he was a lying piece of shit who was very, I wouldn't say charming, but it's the same as like Fred West charming.
Yeah, and he had a certain level of intelligence about him.
Yeah. Well, but yeah, so then he was released, and it was, how long was it till his next, was it like 9 years?
So do you want to... So in 77, police fear that he went on a murderous spree between June and December 77,
which is when the World's End,
and that's when the World's End murders happened. So shall we circle back on those?
We'll circle back on those.
So after that, they reckon 78, he killed in November 78, raped, strangled, and stabbed Mary Gallagher, who was 17.
Yeah. Now this is the weird one, Mary Gallagher, because that's the one where. It's supposed, even though, because Angus Sinclair, apart from being very dead, it was non-compliant a lot of the time. Would not speak about telling why or if he did things. With this, they actually think that that's what stopped him killing and going back to rape.
Yeah, that's something you mentioned before, actually. It's something that I hadn't read, so go ahead.
But basically, Mary Gallagher...
Not that you need permission to talk.
Well, normally I would, yeah. But Mary Gallagher, while he was in the middle of the horrendous abuse and murder of her, she fought back quite viciously, gouging his eyes. Basically, for him, making it a horrible experience. Now, bear in mind, this is a guy that gets off on subjugation and the weakness of the other person. She was a strong woman who was just fighting for her life and literally clawing at him and making it very difficult.
Too much like hard work.
Too much literally.
I'd rather do online shopping now because I went to Tesco's on a Saturday once.
Yeah. See,
I mean,
it's just too much like hard work.
Yeah. Sorry, that was really disrespectful to the victim.
Oh, it's okay. The Scottish Sun might have something to say about it. But yeah, so the thought is that because she made that thing so horrible for him, he stopped doing that particular thing. And then between 78 and 82, he's known to have been indecently assaulted or raped 11 other young girls, some as young as 6. But from his testimony, or not testimony, from his interrogation, he said it could be anywhere between 50 and 200.
That's crazy.
So literally from the horrible murders, he couldn't bring himself to murder them. So he just went, well, I can't do that anymore. I'll just
do a bunch of rapings. What an arsehole. I like isn't the right word, but like how you read it and you go like, oh, raped and indecently assaulted 11 other young girls, and he's like, nah, and you go like, shit, that's a lot of people. That's 4 years, 11 young girls raped, and then you're like, oh shit, that's like a fifth of the number at least. Yeah,
it's. Less than. Let's say he was just showing off, and he's saying anywhere between 50. Let's say it was only 40.
Yeah,
I say only 40. 1 is too many. 40, fucking hell, stop it.
That's 10 a year for 4 years.
I don't know, like. Other serial killers we've looked at and other like sexual abusers we've looked at, when they're faced with one that they didn't like, for a better word, they don't stop. But literally, it stopped him in his tracks doing that.
Because again, I guess it's like a learning thing. Like it's interesting, isn't it? Like, because some serial killers, they would have that, and you've had like serial killers before who they've dropped their gun or lost their gun, or they've dropped their keys, or they've almost got caught. So what they've done is they've improved, so to speak.
They've learned from their mistakes.
They've learned from it. What he's done, he's gone like,
I can't do that.
I can't. This is way too difficult. I'll just get off on sexually assaulting people because murder's too much like hard work.
But there's like all the way through this. I mean, bear in mind he was married, and he was also had a kid.
Yeah.
He lived a completely normal married life, unlike people like Belfield, who completely mentally tortured everyone who was with and made them wipe his ass and things, and it was horrible. This guy actually led a normal married life as far as...
Although he did have loads of affairs.
No, but for the wives, they believed it was happy, and they didn't have a bad time.
Oh no, they did split up a lot, him and his missus.
Yeah,
but not over affairs and things.
I mean, it's basically his brother-in-law, Gordon Hamilton. From the days of meeting him, they used to go out, and Gordon Hamilton always had affairs. Always did.
Yeah, apparently he was a shit as well. He was from a family of a dysfunctional family. He was the one that all of them went, he's a bit much.
Yeah. But no, he basically, normally his wife at the time was very happy. Because,
Gordon Hamilton's wife?
Sinclair's wife, Gordon's sister, was very happy with Angus because Gordon, instead of punching her husband, actually went for drinks with him, because that was a normal thing. Gordon hated whoever she was with and beat them up.
Okay.
So him and Angus used to go out for drinks all the time and used to be each other's wingmen and pull women, have sex with them, whatever, and then go back. But then they would lie about it. But if it was ever brought up and somebody went, oh, I saw your husband and your brother-in-law down the pub, they just came back and apologised, and then they accepted it. But that's what the breakups were over.
What I found was interesting as well, though, and it might be, I don't know, because there was two. Like, he was really close to her younger brother.
Yeah.
So Gordon Hamilton, who is really important in this, like, they apparently weren't as outwardly as close. It's really bizarre. Like, the younger brother, he was Sinclair was really close to the younger brother. They did loads of petty crimes together. They robbed. They did some aggressive crimes, but not murder. But it was all just about like certain things. It's interesting that Gordon Hamilton, who was the one he was not quite so close with, but they had like a much darker.
Well, Gordon was the one that was already going out having affairs, and Sinclair needed something else apart from his marriage. Yeah. So went out with him because he couldn't do that with the younger brother, because the younger brother was just doing the crimes. But the problem is that
they were close to the family, whereas Gordon Hamilton was not close to the rest of the family.
But with Sinclair, the sex and the violence were things he needed, but they were things he needed at the same time. He couldn't doing violent crimes in one day and then having consensual sex another sometimes wasn't good enough. And that's why it it became something horrendous at the World's End, but not even before the World's End, because this is one like Belfield, like Fred West, where they believe that the actual body count and the actual people he abused and raped are far exceeding what he was tried for. So we say, the 1977 were the first ones, apart from Catherine Greenhill, that he killed. No, it's just the first ones that
we know,
they know of. That we have,
because they tried to link. They did actually try to link another, like a number of others, but they just couldn't. They didn't have the forensic evidence to. Like
they said that MO wasn't necessarily the same because he was intentionally changing things up, but it was so much not coincidental.
Enough similarities.
What's it called? Not coincidental evidence.
Circumstantial.
Enough circumstantial evidence that in modern day, with modern day police techniques, he would have probably been killed and raped and killed dozens of women and raped hundreds of women.
And we could have linked him to all of that, to a lot more of them than we could have.
Because you've got to think that the Catherine Greenhill thing in 61, 16 years later is when the World's End was. Now, if we're thinking of escalation of, he was in jail for the 60s afterwards, but the escalation of serial killers, he went out with Gordon to the World's End, picked up these two women.
Oh, just a point of clarity. Sorry. The World's End is a pub in Edinburgh.
Yes, not the film with Simon Pegg. That's different.
So it's the So the World's End pub is also a pub in Camden, but it's not that one.
No, not that one.
It's the World's End pub in Edinburgh or Edinburgh.
Mm-hmm. And then so he basically went there. They picked up these girls. Because Gordon was a piece of shit anyway.
What were the girls called?
It was basically. I know their surnames.
Miss Scott and Miss Edie.
Yeah, so they were raped and then killed at different places. Killed one in one place by strangling her, then moved to another one. Gordon couldn't kill her, so Sinclair did the actual killing, but they both raped the girls.
So it's Christine, Helen Scott and Christine Eady. So Christine's body was found at Gosford Bay on the East Lothian coast, which is about 10 miles east of Edinburgh. Mm-hmm. I've got a description of the crime scene as we're mentioning it.
Yep.
Do you want me to go over the
It's basically, this is in the back of his camper van, wasn't it? Was this his camper van?
So this is how they were found. So this is if you want, I can go over this quickly because it gives a bit of a. So Christine's body was found at Gosford Bay on the East Lothian coast, about 10 miles east of Edinburgh. Mm-hmm. She was sexually assaulted. She was bound and gagged with her own tights and underwear, and she was left naked. Helen Scott, she was found at Coates Farm, which isn't very far from Catherine's body. I think it's inland from where the other one was. She was partially stripped. Her arms were tied with a belt, and a ligature made from her own tights was around her neck. A second ligature, which was made from her belt, was also around her neck, and her pants, which it was written by a Scottish guy, so underpants, not trousers, were near her head. And they said it looked like they'd stuffed her underwear, in her mouth, and the belt had been around her mouth as a gag, and she'd managed to spit it out. So that's why it's around her neck. So that's what they found anyway. So two body dumps.
But you got to think, just talking about the gap in between, there's like Frances Barker, Anna Kenny, Hilda Macaulay were three women who were killed in basically the same way. Some were with knives, some with strangling, but they're three that haven't been prosecuted for. So that when I was saying about escalation, you got in from raping and strangling a 7-year-old girl to 16 years later, raping and strangling two women.
Yes.
Like when you're basically above 16, so it's not like there would have been escalation.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they basically got rid of the bodies in separate places. It's despicable. They were found, but it wasn't like there was a. My dog really doesn't like Angus Sinclair. Don't you like him? No? Oh, okay. Well, he's dead. It's fine. He's dead.
Oh, you've ruined the Where Are They Now?
Yeah. Oh, damn it. I think I said that at the beginning. He was very dead, though. Anyway. So, in 96, Gordon Hamilton died.
Gordon's alive. Oh, no, he's not alive.
Gordon's not alive. But it means that in the future, when they actually managed to prosecute, they couldn't do anything with Gordon. But it wasn't until 2001 that... This is like 24 years later that improved DNA technology linked Sinclair to the body of Miss Gallagher, who was the one from 1978 after the World's End. He was convicted of her murder shortly afterwards in 2001. At this time, still, World's End murders still open.
Still
no
unsolved.
one knew.
What I found interesting though is so even though it was unsolved, the police had actually done really amazing work at this point. We just didn't have the technology yet to process.
Yeah.
So they found at the scene of the crime, they found 2 different DNA samples, and they were mixed. And what I think is really great is there was this guy called Lester Nibb.
Yeah.
He was this young South African guy on the forensics team, and he stayed with the, I think, East Lothian police, I think it was Lothian. He stayed with them like for all of his career, and he was a really young man here. He personally ensured that the forensic evidence they gathered was preserved and taken care of for many years, and then was handed over to other people when he left. But even they had evidence in the 70s that they couldn't process, but he had the forethought to go, things might improve
Well,
as we go.
there was actually one thing that they did for the confirmation of Gordon Hamilton's involvement. I think was phenomenal because they tried DNA from his family, but it wasn't 100%. So what they did is he was decorating with Sinclair. They went to one of the old places he decorated, knocked down some of his the wall that he did, and they found one of his hairs. Yeah,
but they took a few attempts as well. Yeah. They went to a few places because so that was interesting. Like he had only died. So I was going to go back. So they had two DNA samples they had.
Yeah.
One of them was the really strong one. Turned out to be Gordon. And the lesser one that they couldn't discern was Sinclair's. But they actually found Sinclair first because Gordon, they didn't have a sample of his DNA on record.
Yeah.
So when they eventually kind of got the got the DNA sample, they got the technology. It meant that they put it through their computer years later, and we're like, oh shit, that's Angus, the guy that we've got.
What's like
the DNA when they figured out the DNA was a familial link with I keep forgetting everybody's name.
Sinclair?
With Sinclair's wife, basically, and hers. They went around all of the siblings, and it wasn't a match for any of the siblings. So they only left one sibling who had died a few years previously. But even though he'd only died about 4 years or something previous to that, he had left no evidence. There was nothing. Normally, like they say, when people would die, like if something happened to us, we've got these microphones we're talking into.
Yeah.
There's our cars. There's
everything. There's so much DNA evidence
everything
around.
He left nothing. He left like no trace. They didn't have even family photos that he might have touched. There was nothing. So what they did was what you just said. They tracked back where he had been a painter and decorator,
which is ridiculous.
And it took a few attempts before they got anything.
I mean, bear in mind that he was in 2001. He was already convicted of the murder of Mary Gallagher, but it was 2007. When 30 years after the World's End murders, a review of the murders led to a trial against Sinclair, but it collapsed because that was at the time before they managed to get the strong DNA evidence like concrete. They tried some, but it was quite circumstantial. It just didn't lead to anything, and it was another 7 years. 2 years ago, 5 years ago, 2014, that they managed to convict him. Which
2012.
2012 he was 2014 he was jailed.
Oh no, sorry, it's 2014. You're right. Sorry, yeah.
But it's so you got to think that how dogged are these investigators?
Yeah. I found that interesting actually. So they gave a thing called no case to answer. That's the name of like the legal thing that the Scottish courts put down. So September the 7th, 2007, senior counsel for the defence made a submission under some Scottish criminal procedure. It said that Sinclair had no case to answer due to an insufficiency of evidence. In particular, he contended that the Crown had failed to lead evidence that Sinclair was involved in acting with force or violence. Basically, Sinclair had said, "Yeah, I had sex with him. It was consensual."
But then I left, and it was.
And I left, and Gordon, who's now dead, killed him. So the judge chucks it out, threw it out. And we have law over here, which is like double jeopardy, which says if you've been found not guilty of a crime, you can't be tried for the same crime again.
Yeah.
So that would mean, in theory, he was never going to be able to be tried again for that. He'd never be put in front of a jury. So in 2011, the Scottish Parliament passed the Double Jeopardy Act 2011, and it made provisions that meant basically under certain circumstances,
Yeah.
if you find, other evidence, more compelling evidence, you can try them again, because that makes sense. You can be found not guilty, but then if you find actually you spunked all over the place and we can now prove that was your spunk everywhere, you should probably be looked at again because you've got more evidence. But I think that's
it's great that
really amazing that they looked at it and they looked into it and went, actually, we need to make provision for this.
But I kind of wish that they, even though he's dead, I wish they would look into the old crimes. I mean, there was a pornographer called Eddie
I forgot about this one.
Cotogno, who's known as Wee Eddie. He didn't have a P everywhere.
Little Eddie.
Little Eddie. He was basically an old man who got Sinclair to get him models so he could photograph them in whatever his customers were asking for.
Yes.
So some were just awful. I imagine it was paedophilia as well. I don't know. But he was killed.
Yes.
He was killed. And
then what happened?
Well, there was a lot of pornography stops.
No, I was going to say no, but like,
he basically killed him. He put a load. He found all the photographs. After killing him, putting all the photographs around his body, then set fire to the place.
Yes.
And was never prosecuted for it.
But then didn't he then get an interest in taking pornographic photos?
Yes, to be fair, there was an ongoing argument because he was always helping him and he was getting into photography anyway. He learned from Eddie to how to develop black and white pictures.
Yeah.
But Eddie he wanted to know how to do colour ones. Yeah. But Eddie wasn't teaching him. He's like, I haven't got the fucking... Because he thought Sinclair was stupid.
Yeah.
He's like, I haven't got the time to tell a dumb person how to do colour photographs. And that was one of the main arguments. Eddie believed that because of the years that when he was killing people, when Sinclair was killing people, he wasn't doing anything with Eddie.
Yeah.
It's only when that was stopped he needed another outlet.
Yeah.
So then, in between 78 and 82, when he was believed to have raped the 11 girls, possibly up to 200, Eddie was basically still fucking angry that he's going, I had no one to help me when I had all these orders in for gross pornography. And you did that to me. This is your fault. And it ended up, obviously, violent argument, him being killed, and Eddie being forgotten to the ages.
Yeah.
Because, horrible piece of shit and probably deserved to die. But still, doesn't deserve to be murdered.
No, and but I found it interesting. It's like he died,
and then he took over,
and then all of a sudden he was taking the photos himself. Like, ooh, coincidence.
But then also you've got like Sinclair took thinking of serial killers taking trophies. He took trophies, and there's this one amazing statement from a girl who was abused by Sinclair, who said that. This is one that didn't manage to get away without being abused. A car pulled up, his car, and inside, dressed in women's clothing with terribly applied makeup and a wig, was Angus Sinclair.
Ooh. Basically,
pretending in a high-pitched voice to be a woman to get the girl in the car.
Hootsman.
I mean, how great is that? From this, police actually believe that he was cross-dressing a lot of the time.
Oh, that's amazing. I hadn't read that either. Well. That's amazing. That's really interesting.
It's not like it was cross-dressing, but beyond role play. I don't know. They say they know for a fact he would have used the clothes to try and lure people in.
Yeah.
But he was always taking things like pieces of clothing.
Yeah.
Even from the first ones that they thought he did. So it must have been beyond getting lots. He's got a fucking wardrobe of stuff.
Because I think didn't the World's End one there was clothes missing and stuff, wasn't there? One of the girls, I think they didn't find her stuff.
So he took clothes, and you can say, it's taken for disguises, but you only need one set of clothes. He constantly took clothes. So I think it was maybe not cross-dressing in the sense of I want to dress like a woman.
Was it seen as a means to an end because he could be...
But psychologically, he probably just wanted to disappear.
Yeah.
In his own mind, because he wanted... maybe putting it on brought him closer to the victim. So it wasn't like I'm cross-dressing because I like women's clothes and I have a feminine side that I need to address. It was, I'm remembering the violence that I put against them by wearing the clothes that they wore.
Which, like you say, isn't unusual for violent killers. Like you say, when they'll take... It might be unusual for them to cross-dress, but it's not unusual for them to have... trophies to remind them of that.
I mean, it wasn't a nipple belt, but
no,
it's still. That made me laugh. Like it was because when they were looking into the rapes, there were lots of little girls coming out saying, that they were abused, and they managed to, like, a couple of them. The reason he managed to find out for a lot of the rapes that he did was because one girl said he smelt really funny, and the police managed to ascertain it was turpentine.
Yeah,
and another girl said he had green paint on his shoes. And they managed to figure out turpentine, green paint. He's a fucking decorator.
Yeah.
It's Angus.
Because turpentine is used to clean the paintbrush and stuff, isn't
and
it?
they knew
It's
Angus
paint
anyway,
thinner.
because apart from the murder that he was released for, they knew he was a creepy, weird sexual predator. They couldn't catch him on things, but they knew he was a criminal.
Yeah.
They caught him on lots of petty theft things and other things that they basically couldn't prosecute for, but they knew
Again,
who
it's
he
so
was.
similar to Belfield and so similar to Fred West. He was known to the police for different things, some more serious than others, but it took them a relatively long amount of time to get them on the more serious things.
Yeah.
Because they were like petty criminals.
And then you've got to say that, like, his wife, Sarah McCulloch, who believed that, as I said, that he had a happy marriage with him. That, yeah, they had their ups and downs, but it wasn't like abusive, and he wasn't a bad person to her.
Yeah.
She hoped that, because she knew he was in jail, but she didn't know what he was in jail for about killing the kid.
Yeah, he didn't. She had an idea it was like some sexual crime, whatever. Didn't
But
she?
when
But she didn't know what it was.
when he told her, he didn't tell her the facts. He didn't tell her a lie, because he knew at that time, don't tell a lie, just don't tell all the truth.
Yeah.
So he basically, I'd love to know how he couched it.
A lie by omission, isn't
like,
it? Kind of.
There's a dead raped kid here who I've stolen their innocence and their life from. How do I put a positive spin on this? Like, you can't.
I don't know. There was I had an intergenerational relationship with her, and then she died.
Yeah, I mean, there's only so far you can say, well, I was 16, I thought she was 16. Dude, no.
She was 7.
She was. All right, kids nowadays, when they're 16, they can look like they're an adult. No.
7-year-olds look like 7-year-olds.
Yeah, but they always will do. So after he was done for the rapes, and then later on in, I'll just get the actual date again. When was the date of the World's? He was in 2014. He was jailed for life for the World's End murders. That's after he was in jail anyway for the rapes. So that was only like 5 years ago.
Are you going to talk about the end bit? What are you going to go on to?
Maybe you can carry on then.
I wanted to talk a bit more about the policing, actually, because I think I just want to, before we move on, I just want to say how this is another really good example. Belfield's was really good, the police force in that, and the police did an absolutely amazing job in the World's End murders, because even though it looks like it took them 37 years to solve it and stuff like that, they worked tirelessly, and they had the foresight to save a lot of forensic evidence. And what they did, some of the knots that were tied, they took them off the bodies and they kept them tied, because they knew, or they thought, that there might be forensic evidence from the people that tied those knots that they didn't have the technology yet to process.
Yeah.
And as the technology got better, they could have undone those knots, but often the earlier DNA technology destroyed the samples. So they waited until they had the technology to test very tiny amounts. Then they undid those knots and they found the DNA, and then they put it into and then they managed to process it into a full DNA
analysis. Spectrograph. I don't know.
But anyway, they managed to get it into into a large amount of DNA that they could actually test, and I just think that was absolutely fantastic policing. It was really good, really, really well done.
Same with a lot of the ones we read about. That's my dog squeaking a toy, just before you think that we're killing a fictional character. What? Fictional character? They will squeak. Yeah, but I don't know. Anyway, but like a lot of the other cases, the police take a long time doing these, mainly because they have to be correct. They can't risk trying people and it collapsing, especially with this one where it obviously did collapse and they had to rewrite the law book to do it.
Yeah.
But anyone who, I don't think I've got the attention. If I knew this person did it and it would take 10 years to do it, I couldn't do that.
No,
I'd give up. I'd quit.
10 months would be.
I'd be. But also, these people are looking into the things, interviewing person after person who was suspected to have been abused and raped by him, looking into murder cases. These inspectors must just be must go home and cry.
Yeah, trying to get people, coax memories out of people from decades previously.
Yeah, I mean, it's bad enough being a cop and having to tell a family that someone in their family's dead. Like that's the one reason, the major reason why I could never become a cop. I couldn't tell someone that someone they love is dead. But this, they have to not just dredge up old memories, but try and find evidence that they don't even know exists. Like knocking down a wall and finding a hair fiber. Oh, Echo.
She's really enjoying her toy.
But yeah, so that took a long time. He was jailed for the World's End murders, and soon after that, he had a few strokes.
He did.
He was then he lost a shit ton of weight and was in a wheelchair. And he couldn't do anything for himself. He still could talk a bit, and the police repeatedly tried with all the evidence of other... Yeah, she's squeaking. But all the other evidence of other crimes that happened, try to get him to at least say, look, you're dying. You're not going to be around here forever. You're never being released. Just admit to it, or at least categorically say you didn't do this, so we know so we can either put them to rest or keep investigating. And he refused to talk about them the whole time.
Absolute shit.
It was an absolute shit. And he was, I mean, it's awful, but then I resigned myself to be happy in the fact that he was in his wheelchair for the last few years of his life, unable to take care of himself, unable to go to the toilet, unable to feed himself, being waited on by prison staff and hospital staff to just basically doing maintenance on him like a vending machine.
What is it they said?
They said there was, in this book, I don't know how much is just writing, like a bit narrative
artistic
writing.
license.
Yeah, but it was like he never saw a smile again and never heard a laugh again.
I hope that's true.
And it was like, yes, I fucking hope that's true. And granted, there is no punishment good enough for someone like this.
Punishment.
Death, even that's not good enough.
Punishment isn't good enough.
Punishment is too quick.
Too good. Yeah, that's true.
So, maybe torture every single day for eternity might be, but even not. No,
I think keeping him just alive.
Keeping him just alive,
pretty good.
Locked in his own head with those urges, unable to do anything, couldn't do a fucking thing until the final fucking day where his body just gave up on him. And
I might have let his tyres down.
At least one. He couldn't drive.
No, in his wheelchair.
I don't think he had wheels on it. He was probably just in a
chair.
That's just a chair. Just in a chair. But yeah, so he was, they took care of him the best he could because, they've got a duty of care, but they ain't going to make it, they're not going to do small talk.
They're not making pleasurable for him.
Hey, how you doing, Angus? I was going to do a Scottish accent, but I realised it would just sound like Welsh Indian, so I'm not going to try.
Let's not do that.
But yeah, so a lot of his victims, they'll never have any kind of justice.
No, yes.
So then they will be... Their crimes might be lost to the ages because
it's a real shame that we'll never get.
Yeah.
I don't know. I won't say closure, but I think that's not the right word. But they'll, like you say, justice. They'll never know for sure.
A lot of them they know. Like even if it's not official,
they
will know. Like they'll know that he did it. They would have told the families. They would have said, "Look, we have got no evidence. We can't prosecute him. He's dead or he isn't giving up. But this, and this makes us to believe he's done it. He's caught. This is the best we can do for now." And it's a small victory for them.
Yeah,
but it's.
I think it's just funny looking at when he was found guilty eventually. When it was I think you already said, but it was 2014, and he was jailed for life for the murders, and he would have been. He's due out at the age of 106. 106 years old before he'd be allowed to leave prison. Shall we do a?
Actually, I'm going to quickly go back to one little thing because it plays into the character. When he was first arrested for the rapes, he was denying. His wife came in and sat him down and said, not verbatim, fucking tell them the truth, you piece of shit, fucking don't lie about this. And all of a sudden, just from her speaking to him, he completely caved. And then that's when he said, it's only between 50 and 200. And he just completely caved in, which led me to believe that his motivation is because of his size and his perceived lack of power growing up, is that he's exerting power over people, but his marriage to his wife, because she had authority over him, and that's why she never experienced any of the abuse that, say, Belfield's wife gave him.
Yes.
So he was like subservient, and just her saying that made him just completely blur, because it was his de facto mother.
Yeah.
But the mother, up to the day he died, still believed he was innocent.
Yeah, but then it's her little boy, and he didn't have his dad around, did he?
He was little. You're right.
That's true. Yeah,
5'2".
But he was his little boy. He was he didn't have a dad around as well. So this the whole family thing is weird. I just want to say, actually, he said about his wife. From everything I read, from the book I read, she was great. Like, she moved down south and got a new family, distanced herself from all of that.
The son
but
changed
was
his name.
completely cooperative with the police, did everything she could to remember things.
And if it wasn't for her, a lot of these murders that they suspect him of wouldn't have been linked to him.
Yeah. So I think, like, again, great policing and good for her. She did really remarkably well.
Brave woman for coming out and actually doing, ever since his death, she's come out and done an interview and talked about it and said, like, this, she's the one that's came out and said, like, you know, she had no idea about all this. And that kind of thing, yes, it is painful for her, but it really does help people in maybe a similar situation with an abusive husband or something like that. It really, like,
there's also often a lot of suspicion about, like, the wife must have known, but I don't think she really
it's
did.
Not Rose West. You know,
I don't think, exactly. And, like, for her to all those years later cooperate with the police, I kind of feel like if she knew and she was hiding it, she would have just gone like, no, I'm not. I mean,
she believes that from looking at all the evidence and everything that happened, she believed he was murdering people for a 10-year period.
Yeah, that's crazy.
More than that they think he did before.
Yeah.
And she says, no, it doesn't. It marries up better this way.
Yeah.
And she's like, the police have a fucking hard time the best of times. They rely on people to help them.
Yes.
And this is a case where, God, it helped. And it proves, like, that I believe 100% she's telling the truth because of the psychopathy of Sinclair, that it was a de facto mother, that he did cave in and suddenly say yes because she was there. If it was any other case, he wouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
But so where are they now?
Where are they? Christian?
Yes.
Where are they now?
Well, Sinclair.
Yes.
I don't know if I've mentioned this, but he is no longer in this world.
He's an ex-Sinclair.
It's even funnier that they even reported on this, and it might have been the normal son, not the Scottish son, that his he was put in a coffin, burnt, ashes chucked at sea.
Okay.
The ashes chucked at sea. No one at the ceremony lasted less than 10 seconds.
Good.
Like, I love that they reported on that.
Yeah.
Who knows if it's bullshit, because nobody can actually.
No, but I hope that's true.
But the fact that take him out to sea, chuck the ashes overboard, done. No ceremony, done. So yeah, his the son changed his name. Weirdly, the journal, the reporting on it, I think this is the Daily Mail. They said they don't even know if he's alive or dead.
Oh,
they can't. He literally has disappeared.
Okay, good for him. In as much as, like, he doesn't need that shadow.
And the wife has, but I don't think she's still under the same name. I think she's changed her name as well. It's not witness protection, but you can just change your name and live somewhere else.
But the brother-in-law, Gordon Hamilton,
dead as a fucking doornail.
1996. Mm-hmm. Fuck you. The only bad thing is he never got to face justice.
Yeah.
For it, he was dead he was already dead by the time they got his DNA.
And the thing is, the weird thing was, this book I read, the Ryan Green book, talked about him as, like, during the murder. It's obviously supposition of how it happened, but that he was intimidated. He did the rape. This isn't of one of the girls. It's nothing. But he was so scared of Sinclair and refused to do the killing that's what broke their relationship up, and he was afraid of dying, so that's why he went ahead with some of it. And it's like, no, he's still a piece of shit.
I think that's just some of the supposition, because in the book that I read, like, they mention that they talk about a lot, and they don't have one definite idea. They talk about a lot of things about how they weren't close, like Sinclair was with the younger brother. But they had something, and they talk about, did they have that closeness because they had that darkness inside, or did they have a closeness because they both knew too much and they needed to keep them close to each other because either one of them could have screwed the other one over. I did read this. Yeah, so it was something to do with it was drinking. He was an alcoholic.
Yeah,
Gordon Hamilton, and it was to do Gordon Hamilton. Do you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was related to his alcoholism, because that family.
Oh, so it wasn't. I was thinking, wait a minute, was Sinclair involved in this? But apart from buying him drinks, probably not. But yeah, so I mean, this is. I don't think it matters. He's dead. He was a piece of shit. He died of death.
I was going to find out.
It's okay. Here's some hold music while we're waiting. He died from some alcohol-related illness.
Yeah, it's related to his alcoholism.
Well, it's like, you've got to bear in mind, like, look at these two people. They're going around pubs, getting girls, shagging them. If they're not willing, they'll rape them. In a fucking camper van.
Yes.
We haven't brought that up enough.
No,
he's in a camper van. Maniac factor.
I think they score quite high. I think
I mean,
he scores
Gordon,
fairly high.
We don't know enough about Gordon today, but him.
I kind of want to give him a 4 because he started so young.
What's it out of?
5, isn't
There
it?
we go.
Yeah, sorry,
sure.
4 out of 5. Yeah, he started young.
He was definitely a pedo.
He was a paedophile. He murdered, and he was like kind of
there
cunning in the bit.
There was calculation, and normally we discount points if they're got a lot of calculation behind them because it shows some sanity. But his was so.
I think it's a mixture.
It's a mixture. Like his was so insane, and I can't murder anymore, so I just go around raping.
Yeah.
It's no.
What about you?
4 is a good one. 4 is a good one. Yeah. I mean, 5 is really kept for the Chikatilos and the fishes out there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, thank fuck he's dead. Was a maniac.
Good
not
riddance.
anymore.
Goodbye.
Good riddance. We hope that those who survived encountering him in whatever way it was have got him in the rear view.
Yeah, I hope
So
they could get on with their lives as best as they could. And
So thank God that fucking episode's over
fuck
again.
you.
I think next week, I believe we've got a mini stories where we're going to tell each other some little cool stories.
True Crime Tapas?
It's True Crime Tapas. But anyway, so that's the end of that episode. As ever, you can find us on the tweets and on the Facebooks and the Instagrams.
Echo on Pod. And echoonpod.com on the website.
And again, do share, do tell your friends, get your parents to listen to it, get your grandparents to listen to it, get your great-grandparents to listen to it. Go into an old age home, find any grandparent, put some headphones on them and say, listen to this, and then run away. Wait, that could be
Go to horrormarketplace.etsy.com.
Type in the code
Echo on, all one word.
And then he said, no, that is it.
That is
Echo
right,
on and get £7 off the badge and get it just pay for postage. So a couple of quid.
Yes. Oh, go on, no, I spoke over you, carry on.
I have, that was it.
For a couple of quid, you'll have your very own Echo on badge. Cool. Bye.
Bye.